Great.
So fancy.
Hello, everyone. We are live. Yay. Technology is great. Anyways, so welcome to the Round 5 Vaultathon show. Welcome to the Round 5 live show of Vaultathon. I am so excited to have these lovely people. That was probably me.
Okay,
that was probably me. I had to close out of the old window. I had it up to grab the link and then forgot to close it. So that was probably me.
when I say panic, it goes in my body.
Anyways, so welcome to the Round 5 live show. We are talking about Meet the Robinsons and our group book, Saving Lucas Biggs by Marissa de los Santos and David Teague. It's going to be fun because I think we have some pretty possibly mixed opinions about the book. Possibly, I don't know. We'll see. I feel like
I don't think they were that mixed.
Anyways, so I have these lovely people with me. I am going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves, say a little bit about their channel. I will warn you, if you don't hype yourself up enough, I will hype you up for you. Christine, do you want to go first, since I like picking on you?
Okay, I'm Christine. I've been here literally every other time, so if you don't know me by now,
what are you even doing?
What are you even doing in your life?
My channel is the other Christine that reads. I talk about books, as do we all. I have a golden retriever who features a lot on my channel and who is the only thing in this world that I care about. So yeah.
And she was on a lot of the vlog that you just did. So like, go watch Christine's vlog. It's super chill and like aesthetic, and I kind of hate how good it is. Christine, you just have no sound.
You muted yourself.
Christine, you have no sound. All right, do what you need to do to fix that. Oh, there we go. I think I heard you now.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways, Christine does really good vlogs, unlike me, who does chaos vlogs.
Oh, no, my vlog was great until Tuesday, and then I forgot about it.
I did Monday, Wednesday, a real quick clip yesterday, and then some clips today. So it's going to be a short vlog for me.
Yep.
Anyways, all right, Bree Bear, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Bree, and my channel is Bree Bear McKay. And obviously, I talk about books. I read kind of a mixture of everything, so I don't really have like a specific, genre that I stick with. I kind of go across the board. I'm very seasonal in my reading, and I am very into readathons. So I do a lot of readathon vlogs, and I'm overly specific in all of my wrap-ups. So if you want a really overly descriptive explanation about a book, I got you. If you want any extra over-the-top details, I got you. If you need over-the-top trigger warnings, I got you. Other than that, I like coffee. I like dogs. I like, my dog is Sam. He's the best. He's a Weeniwa, half Chihuahua, half Dachshund, so it's a good thing. And I just kind of hang out with my family, and so you'll see them too.
This is how I get all of the dog content in my life, is these people. I sadly am dogless.
You just live vicariously. It's okay.
Yes, I do. So someday, perhaps I will be able to be in a place where I can get a dog, but not in this place. All right, Brianna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Brianna. I'm from the channel Coffee Books and Bullet Journals. Although I don't have a ton of bullet journal content anymore, because I'm not doing that quite as often. I just don't want to change my channel name. My tagline is, I'm a mess, but I have cute dogs. I have 5 dogs. So that's mostly what my vlogs consist of, usually more dogs than actual reading. But I've recently learned the term omnivore reader, and I feel like that fits me very well because I read a little bit of everything. I know, right? It's a cool name. So I read a lot of like contemporary, but then also some fantasy. I've been reading a ton of thrillers lately. So like I'm here for that, but not like super scary things because I'm a wuss.
Oh, that's
But
so
yeah,
funny.
I'm very chaotic. You have a lot of chaotic energy that's trying to be calm in my videos. That's essentially me.
I only look put together because I can edit things. So,
And
okay.
also, Margaret is going to get to name one of the next puppies
Yes.
that we have. So
I'm
like, she
excited
does
about this.
yeah.
Yes, I will need pictures of this puppy that I am naming, though, so that I can make sure I fit the correct
Oh,
name
yeah.
to the puppy.
Definitely.
I like to think this one was Windu. So
Okay, I'm leaning towards Athena, but I have to see if you have an Athena in the litter first.
Okay. All right. Well, she's not pregnant yet.
I know. So there's that.
come on, Brianna, get her done.
Don't talk to me. Talk to Zephyr.
Oh man. All right. Anyway, Christine, the phrase having kittens is a figure of speech. People don't have kittens or puppies. Anyway.
I meant Zephyr. Come on.
Oh my god. All right. So real quick housekeeping thing, because I know people have been asking. Yes, Vaultathon will be back next year. If you want to know what those dates are and the stuff about how we're picking the movies next year, you will need to stick around till the end of the live show. Doing that on purpose. Smart YouTuber things. But that's just so everyone knows, I will be announcing all of that on this live show. I will also be announcing it on the Twitter. You might want to, check out the Twitter later tonight because I'll have some more information about it. But I'm going to explain it here at the end of the live show. Now, before we get into talking about the book and the movie and like our experience with them, I have a question. I know Christine talked about it in her vlog, but what was everyone's something new that to do the, what was it? The future is, I don't remember which prompt it was. The singing frogs?
Yes, singing frogs.
Singing frogs. Thank you.
I just happen to have my list taped right here. I was prepared inadvertently.
Oh, nice. So I'll start. My singing frogs fulfillment of the prompt was to do the little time travel like Twitter sprint thing. I've never actually done like a planned out storyline type thing of that magnitude. I think I tried a couple years ago to do something, but it was kind of off. But this time I actually sat down and for the first time planned things out before I even started writing the tweets, because I had to have 2 tweets for each sprint ready to go, depending on which one won. So that was my singing frogs.
I joined Brianna Monday Read with me. Which, I mean, I've been on a live with Brianna before, but not that
all
one.
reading.
Not a lot of reading.
No, we've done write-ins galore, but
But not reading.
Yes.
So I had this grand ambition to do a new thing every day. And it was gonna be like, well, they were just going to be like little things. And I did them for the first couple of days. And then we got a new client at work. And between the 3 of us that can do what I do, we had 52 people to visit in 9 days. So like that's why like my vlog for Wednesday through Friday just does not exist.
that's your new thing.
What I know, right? That's my new thing. But I did make coconut curry for the first time on Monday night.
Nice.
And then Tuesday I braided my hair for like the first time since I was a child.
Nice.
So those are my new things. Because after that I was like, I'm exhausted.
Big or small, they're new things.
I mean, the intention was there.
Exactly.
The idea was cool.
It was a new thing to try new things.
Yes, exactly. And I'm impressed that you were even gunning for one thing every day. Like I don't even have the bandwidth to do that.
It would have made great vlog content. And if I would have had literally like this was the busiest week since pre-COVID.
Oh
and
my
I was
god.
like, it had to be readathon week.
Of course it did. Yeah, I decided that what my new thing was going to be as I was doing it. So
There you go. You're like, oh crap, we have Annie tomorrow.
So I ended up deciding my new thing as I was downloading the book for the group book. I decided to use Hoopla because it was available on Hoopla. Well, so that's what I did. It had both the audiobook and ebook available. So, and I wasn't sure which one I wanted to do. So I was like, I'm going to try that thing where people like switch back and forth because I've never done that. I've never switched back and forth between reading with my eyes and reading with my ears. So I decided to try it, and it was an interesting time. I feel like it would have been easier if the audiobook had the chapter markers, but I couldn't get the list to pull up the chapters on Hoopla. So I couldn't actually get to the exact chapter that I stopped at unless I skipped through using the 15 second skip forward, skip back until I magically found the spot.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Now, thankfully, though, it did have multiple narrators. And so Margaret's chapters had a female voice and Josh's chapters had a male voice narrating it. So that helped a little bit so I could find the spot. Because, like, once I, like, got to the other person's voice, then I was like, oh, okay, I'm in the right part. I just have to, like, skip back until I get to the start of the chapter now. So that helped. But, I mean, if I do it again, it'll be with making sure that I can actually access the chapter list first before I do it. Because that
that would be smart.
Otherwise,
Okay, so that little bit out of the way. Let's discuss like your history with the movie. How many people do we have that this is the first time that they've seen it? Just Christine. Ah, she's special. Lucky girl. All right, so you guys have so Brianna, and I have all seen it before. Did you guys see it in theaters at all?
Not actual theaters. When I was a camp counselor, we would have a movie night once a week, and our like outdoor, like down at the waterfront, we had like a big projector thing that we would do, and so we would watch movies with the teenagers, and that one was one of them.
Yeah. And what were your thoughts the first time you saw it versus this time seeing it? Like, is there anything that like changed your mind about or things that you remember?
When I was watching it as like a counselor, I wasn't able to like fully watch it because like I also had to watch my kids because like the waterfront, like they were all in the water, like on floaties and things like that. And so like as a lifeguard, I had to also be making sure like they weren't dying.
Like, I guess that's a good thing to do if you're a camp counselor.
Yeah. So like I definitely remember like the humorous moments of like I have a big head and little arms and like that for the rest of the summer. But like as far as like the nuances of the movie, like this was the first time kind of picking up on some of the like smaller jokes.
Yeah.
Also, I was at like a Christian camp, so some of the like really small like jokes that Disney always puts in for the adults, I'm like,
I honestly I love those, and it's so funny when people like. Do you remember? Okay, so do you remember? Because that was a Christian camp. Do you remember James Dobson's like website he had where he goes through all of the movies and tells you everything that you should object to in the movie?
Oh yeah.
Like it's so funny.
I had that one bookmarked when I was a kid.
I checked it out multiple times with multiple movies. My mother used it to decide what we were allowed to see.
Yep.
Yeah. Experience.
My mother used it to get rid of all of our Disney movies as a kid.
Oh, wow. I mean, to some extent, I do appreciate there being a site that says, hey, if you have kids, just know that this content is in there, decide whether or not it's appropriate. But, like, I don't know that I like the idea of the moral judgment because I'm just like, maybe things that sometimes you can enjoy things that aren't 100% biblical. So, anyways, Bree, what was your thoughts like between the first time you saw it and this time seeing it?
So when I don't remember exactly when it was that I first saw the movie. I don't know if I actually saw it in theaters or anything, but it's one of those things where it's like we've seen so many movies that I don't remember exactly when it was, but I do remember that I really loved it. It was like I wanted to go get a composition notebook and start planning out my entire life and coming up with brilliant ideas and doing all the things. And I remember that, like, when I first saw it, that I was just like so inspired by it. And like watching it this time, I still felt that, but I also really noticed some really interesting things about like Goob's character. And like that he's not like meant to be like a villain so much as a representation of things in people, of like you know, our insecurities and things like that we have in us, that, you know, we allow to affect the way that we treat people and affect the way that we, you know, go about life. And like that was just really interesting to me to like actually try to like figure out where they were going with that. And when it like when it clicked, I was like, oh, okay, I see this. And that's why he's like unwashed, because it's an unkempt thing that like you never addressed it, you never took care of this issue in your life, right? This small thing, you never took care of it, and it like affected the way that you know. So like that was really interesting to me, like, you know, noticing that, because like I hadn't thought about it before. I hadn't really thought about his character other than being like a really not very effective villain, you know. And when I realized that it was actually like symbolic too, I was like, oh, okay, I can handle that. I can get behind you there.
Yeah. Okay, this is probably the point where I should say there will be spoilers for the movie and for the book. If you are here somehow and you have not seen the movie or read the book, just don't complain about it if you keep watching. That's on you. Also, my channel is usually very kid-friendly. There's no cussing on this channel, but I don't censor my hosts, so say what you want, ladies. Whatever. We're probably going to be talking about some very adult, maybe some adult themes. Depends. It was a middle grade book. But so my experience, because I'm about to spoil the whole thing, my experience, I remember loving this movie when we saw it in theaters. Looking back, I'm thinking that it's probably because I guessed really early on that Goob and the Bowler Hat Man were the same person, and I was right. And so that was all that mattered. But because I remember, like, the first time I enjoyed it when we watched it Saturday a little bit. Christine, what?
It was obvious.
Yeah, yes, I know. Shh.
Right. Okay.
That's the important part. I was right, and that is all that matters in this life. I'm right. Anyways, so I remember thinking it was hilarious. I went to see it in theaters with friends. I was probably in my 20s. And it was really funny because when I was watching this, doing the prompts, I remember watching it going, why did I love this movie so much? Like, it's a decent movie, but like so many of the flaws were a lot more apparent having rewatched it for I think possibly the first time since I saw it the first time. So it was a really interesting experience. Christine is reminding me how young she is. Stop it. All right. So Christine, you are the last one. What were your thoughts watching this for the first time?
Okay, so I was really convinced I was going to hate it because I don't like the animation style. And when I don't love when Disney movies experiment with, I love the classic animation, and I don't love it when they experiment because I feel like they don't do as well as other companies. So I was like, I'm going to hate this on animation principle. And then I loved it. So I was like, oh, wow, that's actually a good story. Like, it had a good message about like blaming other people and other circumstances for your inability to be happy, essentially, not necessarily your misfortune, but your like inability to be happy. And it also just like, I don't know, like I think the character was really relatable, just like his quest to find family and to fit in, and and then it was just really cute, and the animation was really bad. I hated it. But the voice cast was great. Like everything was great. Like I called early on who everybody was, right? I was like, wow, what do you know? Both the ladies have frogs. Like, but, like it was sweet. And Goop sucked. I could tell it from the first scene in the movie. I was like, this kid's a little prick. And I was right. So.
Oh man, Brianna and Christine are going to fight over that.
You had bad situations happen to him, okay?
What? Other than like generally being an orphan, like what? He fell asleep during a baseball game.
I agree with both of you to some extent on that, because on the one hand, I understand like kind of sometimes there are forces in your life that affect you, and it's really, really hard to not blame other people, especially when some of it is out of your control. But on the same hand, I'm like, kid, you lost a baseball game.
He was
And
also
then got
that-
beat up. And then got bullied.
But he didn't.
Time.
He didn't though, because he was like, and they all hated me, and they were like, "Hey, Goob, wanna come over?"
Yeah.
I was like,
I did.
"You little twit."
One of the things I did like about that sequence and that character, I guess we're getting into the movie now. What we were already talking about the movie. I guess we're getting into more of the themes now. One of the things I did like about it is how easy it is to feel like people are perceiving you a certain way.
Yeah.
And to have your brain think that when that's not necessarily what's happening. Because that's something I struggle with all of the time, having to be like, no, Margaret, people don't see the stuff that bugs you about you as much as you see it, because you're having to live it. You can literally feel it. Like, they don't feel it the way you do.
That's why even though I hated him, I thought he was a good villain.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
was he
almost
really
like
the villain, though?
That's the thing, I don't think
Doris
he was the
was.
villain.
I feel like he was more the henchman.
Yeah.
No, but
He was taken advantage of by the AI.
he's the foil to the protagonist. Like, he represents what Lewis could have become if he had like continued down his quest,
Mm-hmm.
because he would have ended up with no family. So
Speaking of Lewis and continuing his quest, let's talk for a minute. What are some of the themes that we think that you guys noticed that the book and the movie kind of had similar?
nothing.
What?
Other than time travel, nothing.
Guys, come on. Do you guys, okay, first off, there's the pigeon cooing, number one. We gotta mention that. It's in both the book and the movie. That's not a theme, but that's something that bugged me. But if both of them focus on this idea of trying to change your future by going to the past and realizing that you have to change your present. You can't change the past.
Except that, wait, Wilbur actually did have to go to the past. Like, Wilbur had to. Like, Wilbur saved.
Wilbur had to.
Right.
Lewis was
Lewis
trying
didn't.
to go to fix his, trying to use his past to fix his present.
But, and also, here's the thing is, like, Wilbur had to, and Margaret could have succeeded. She just sucks at everything.
Yeah. Right.
None of their plans made sense, to be fair.
Wait, they were like, let's find the most arbitrary random moment that conveniently has to do with the best friend that I lost. And
Oh my gosh, there was so much plot convenience in the book. I am going to be honest. I am going to be so much plot convenience.
I've never read a book where the plot was tied together by such loose threads.
Right.
There's a sense of disbelief here.
Like, I know it's middle grade, but come on.
The book needed another 100 pages and some more transition.
So good. Like the what was it called? I Can Keep This Promise. That was
Yes.
middle grade, and that was so mature and eloquent and like meaningful.
Mhm.
And so I was like, Margaret picks good middle grades, and I was like, this is a pile of shit. I kept on listening to it, so I was like, this is a pile of shit.
In my defense, that was a personal recommendation from a friend. And this one, I had to go and find a book that had similar themes.
Oh, okay,
They're not
okay.
going to be winners.
Okay.
Like, it had been vetted. No, I mean, listen, I'm reading a middle grade right now, and we're a chapter in, and I'm like, oh my God, thank God it's a good book. Like, I can
That's the thing with middle grade, you can tell. Like,
Yeah.
young adult and adult, sometimes it takes a bit to get into. Middle grade, it's like if the first chapter or two is not good, the rest of the book is not going to be good.
Mm.
I do want to bring up that another thing that both books share is some of the plot does revolve around. Sorry, I didn't want my dad to hear. Does revolve around redeeming an old white dude. Like, why?
You got a point.
Especially in the case of Judge Lucas Biggs. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm offended by this. Like,
Because like saving Goob was like emotionally saving himself,
mhm.
but saving Lucas Biggs was again like an arbitrary decision. When you think about it, would have no actual effect.
And saving Goob was something that was like personal to, like, Lewis had a partial responsibility in it, if that makes sense. Does that?
Like he felt responsible for what
Well,
happened.
like I didn't necessarily see it as like him saving him. I thought more as him, you know, doing like fixing his wrong.
Fixing his mistake. Yeah, exactly. Versus we spend all this time trying to, and I didn't realize Lucas Biggs was so old. Like, I hadn't put 2 and 2 together with his age, but he's like 70. I'm just like, no, he just needs to not be in power anymore. He needs to not be
right. Like, even if he was a nicer person, he'd probably still be a capitalist hack.
Right.
Yeah, and like, I mean, he's 70. At this point, he's about to die anyway. Like,
Just let it
within the
happen.
next 30 years, he isn't going to be there anyway. And you're just going to have to do this all over again with the next person.
No, I'm going to be honest. Like, well, he did turn into stuff for Victory. And so I was okay with most of that. The thing that really bugged me was the whole Josh being like, I've always been your friend. And I'm just like, that is such a toxic mentality to teach kids. Like, that is probably the thing that bugged me most about the whole book.
Also, like, you knew each other for like 2 months when you were 13. All right, Josh, I get you have a big crush, but you need to step back. This is ridiculous.
Like, I was just like, listen, like, the idea that you need to be friends with someone and not give up on them even when they are doing things that are wrong and that are terrible and horrible, which is stuff that's like, at some point we do need, like, I think we need to teach kids that it's okay sometimes to let friends go. Like, sometimes you just have to accept that it's a bad friendship, or, you know, they don't necessarily, like, they believe in things that are wrong, and you just gotta let them go.
Well, and I think it can be really toxic to try to force those friendships at young ages because, you know, you're going to make the child feel guilty for not being friends with the person. And that, trust me, will carry on later in life.
Especially if it's somebody who has hurt that child. Like,
like that's an important thing is, like, you know, you can have a different belief system than somebody and be friends with them. But when it comes to, you know, harming other people and being, you know, harming that person as well, you know, because, like, if you're harming other people and you're in a toxic relationship, and, you know, the way that I view a toxic relationship is that being in that relationship makes you love yourself less.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
That is not healthy. And, you know, Josh, I feel like definitely, you know, put himself in harm's way in cases and didn't, you know, protect himself in his attempts to, you know, try to save a friend who, you know, didn't reciprocate.
He also put his literal grandchild and his friend in harm's way. He was like, you know, maybe this preteen can go ahead and, like,
there was just I'm like, this doesn't happen in the legal system. A 13-year-old does not just walk into a courthouse and be like, this is how it's gonna happen.
How much of this is small town and how much of this is just like plot control?
Never looked at like never watched any courthouse kind of proceedings.
Right.
All right. Well, so since we've already moved straight, let's just talk about the book. So were there any parts of this book that you guys liked? Well, actually, let's start off with, like, what was everyone's rating?
2.5 stars.
2 stars.
I haven't settled on a rating, but it's probably going to be somewhere around in there, like 2.5.
Okay. I gave it 3. That was me. I thought it's for what it was trying to do. I appreciated what it was trying to do. I don't think it did it well. I think that there are definitely things that could have been done better. And I also think that, like, this was the wrong. I liked what they were trying to tackle, but I think they approached it incorrectly for a middle grade.
Yeah. The whole time I was reading it, I felt like this is a half-baked idea.
Yeah. I felt like either we needed to make it so these characters were actually middle grade characters and make a plot that worked with middle grade characters, or we needed to make it YA. Like, it needed, all that needed more time.
That politically these authors are pussies. Like, so we're gonna talk. First of all, we're gonna talk about the death penalty in the United States, and we're going to make it a white man for arson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's say I can look past that. Then you bring down like a socialist revolution, and you don't really use that language at all. Okay. All right. And then the man who has been ingrained with capitalism and like corporate wealth and privilege his whole life is just like, oh, you're right. My daddy was a and he penalty.
And that's the live show.
There is a lot to unpack there for people who might be tuning in for the first time, have never met Christine before, by the way. Christine does this, like, this is what she does. She studies history. So, like, she is probably I don't want to make a judgment, but she is probably one of the smartest people on this live show.
She's definitely the smartest person on this live show.
I have a master's degree.
My brother with a master's
Well,
degree.
for science, I'm your girl, but not history.
All right, so, okay. So, no, go ahead.
It was just like they were writing about things they clearly like didn't also read about.
They didn't. They were definitely like. I feel like it's a book that would happen if I were to listen to one of the podcasts that I am listening to. I listen to Behind the Bastard religiously. I love it. I'm 100 episodes in from the very beginning, and he really does a good job of covering topics. But if I had just taken that podcast and used it to write a book, that's what happened. Like, I appreciate so. I think the thing I like most about this book is the idea that it introduces kids to the idea that what you learned in history class, what you have been told is history, may not be correct. I like the fact that it talks about corporate cover-ups and that kind of thing, because I think that we need more, like, we need kids introduced to those ideas so they don't grow up thinking that every single line you hear is true, that like history books tell you everything. However, I don't think they did a good job of executing it. I don't think they did, especially like I literally have a note that when we get to the point where they're actually doing the hijinks, I was like, this is where it's falling apart because none of this makes sense. It's all happening too fast. Why are these children doing this?
A big butt and walk on in and try to prevent an assassination.
Like, listen, I understand theater makeup can do some magic, and I'm a theater major, so like I took classes. I worked with like I know this stuff to some extent, like a very small extent, but like I understand how well you can like what you can do. But that's you got to be 30 feet and squinting for it to work. Number one, that's the rule. That's the rule. 30 feet and squinting. Number two,
lighting.
I don't care how good you are at theater makeup. You are not going to get a 13-year-old to look like an old man.
In 1938.
Right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, like I said, I appreciated that it was introducing kids to the idea of activism and all of that. I liked the fact that it was talking about the strikes and stuff like that. And I like. Who was it? I was talking with one of you that we were talking about the fact that the massacre seemed to be a whole bunch of stuff happening all at once. And I literally just finished listening to a podcast that was talking about mining strikes with police. That's kind of how police got their start up north, was breaking strikes, or one of the ways that they got their start up north. And like a lot would happen in those massacres. But like they were that massacre compared to what was happening later on in the book where everything's going crazy, and like just the realism of one and then the absolute ridiculousness of the other, because you've got two 13-year-olds that are wrestling with a bear rug.
Yeah, fair.
Well, like, that's the thing. Like, this book would go from doing something like and actually talking about an issue that needed to be talked about, and then would just like completely throw all of that out the window with this absolutely ridiculous
trying to save him plot.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like in general, I feel like they just try to do too much. Like taking on like when you're taking on something as big as, corporate, abuse of their employees, stuff like that. If you're taking on something as big as, that whole capitalism, all that stuff, if you're taking over that, then, trying to also add in like multiple subplots, like interpersonal subplots within the characters, then you're gonna get lost. You're gonna lose at least one or two things along the way. They're not gonna get through the right way, and they're not gonna, come together. I feel like that's definitely what this suffered from, because, like we got a little bit of an experience, between the characters, but, the main arc of everything and like the main, themes didn't really come together because of that. Because we were so focused on the magic and all of that, that we didn't actually get the, understand, like, I don't think it really explained the dynamics of what it's like when a company, does horrible things and does, treats people like crap. If you're gonna attack that kind of topic, I feel like it really just needs a lot more, attention, because it's such a subtle thing a lot of times too, that, I don't think it was like, I don't think it came across, because like they tried almost at the beginning when Josh first got there, and they went into the house and they used the food and they thought that it was being given to them, and then they had to pay for it, and like all of that, if they had like drug that out just a little bit of like the slow transition, because it like seemed so sudden that it became so like intense, and we didn't experience that it's a slow process to actually get to a point that's that bad, and I think that's true for anything, but if you're not showing the, the progression of, if a little thing gets by and then, oh, okay, well, that's fine. And then another little thing gets by and, oh, okay, that's fine. And then as you keep doing that, it becomes bigger and bigger things that are, oh, okay, that's fine, until it's a toxic situation, and I don't think that came across at all.
Yeah.
I know it's not middle grade, but if anyone actually wants to read a book that does like a mining strike and like introduces socialist concepts into a capitalist like system, Fall of Giants by Ken Follett covers coal mining exploitation very well. But obviously it's for adults, so make your 13 too.
Well, if you want to introduce the idea of strikes and stuff to your 13-year-old, I recommend Esperanza Rising, because I think that one, it is a little bit younger, but it does really cover that well. And it's really personal, because the young girl that is Esperanza, the main character, it's very complicated, because she's not actually part of the strike because she's 13, but it's personal to her because she's one of the people who is a worker. She's 13 and she's having to support her family, which is just like, I've been reading a lot of books where like you'll have 13-year-olds, and it's always I've been reading a lot of books that involve immigrants. It's just so hard to like see that and see kids having to be the adults. And you got a little bit about that in this book, but I do think that Margaret had a little.
I think it did it for the wrong reasons. Like the parents were not unable to be adults.
Yeah.
They were just like completely absent.
Yeah. Well, my thing was that Bridie was like, oh, we need to stop this. I'm going to let these 13-year-olds. Why didn't you do it, ma'am? Like, you're a full-grown adult and you're going to have the kids do the changing of the history?
Right. That makes sense.
Like,
time travel.
Yeah.
And like she actually is in that time period, so she could have probably done more, because history wouldn't have resisted her, because she's actually in the time.
Can we talk about how offensive that history resisting part is for a minute?
All right, go.
I'm a historian. Okay. So there's this like notion in history that history is always like a progression towards an end goal, and it's like kind of popularized by like Hegel and Marx, and it's like this idea that like you're always moving linearly forward, and it's bullshit. Okay, it's absolutely stupid. Sorry, America. I know you love it. I know it's how you get off at night, but it really is. It doesn't make any sense and doesn't reflect history at all. And I can say that as an actual expert. So this whole idea of like, no, like history resists you trying to fuck with it. Like history resists change suggests that there is like a right way that history should go. Kind of like the timeline prevention thing in Umbrella Academy, except that those are like individuals working towards it, not like the universe. And to me, this is like so stupid and offensive because this like suggests that the things that happened in history like should have happened in history. Like if somebody like went back in time and tried to like prevent a genocide in history, we would be like, no, this has to happen for the outcome of the world. And like that's bullshit. And like we need to like get away from that like fatalistic idea. So again, politically, these authors are pussies.
Well, so then if we want to talk about it scientifically, the whole point of like them not being able to time travel and like that was never explained why they shouldn't, like they gave like some half-ass reason, and I'm like,
you'll start planned.
Right, like, oh, we can't do it because the plot says no.
Time travel's ableist.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that, but oh my gosh.
What's the logic here?
I'm sorry, if you could go back and change. And then also, Harriet Tubman was not a time traveler.
Exactly. Girl was just cool. She was just awesome.
Of all of the people in history, why did they choose Picasso and Harriet Tubman? Like, what the actual?
Really great people, right? They've obviously equally done good for the world. Like,
right, but also if Harriet Tubman was a time traveler, she would have done way more.
She would have broke everyone's asses. Like,
you have to keep in mind that if Harriet Tubman was number one, if Harriet Tubman was a time traveler, she probably wouldn't have grown up enslaved. But if Harriet Tubman was a time traveler, she wouldn't have been time traveling after the age of 18, which is when she was older, when she did all of the fantastic stuff that she did. I never saw that as like a
time traveler. She would have done it sooner.
Yeah. Anyways.
The whole like, oh, you're an adult now, you can't time travel because you have bad vision. Like
that makes literally no sense.
It's pretty dumb.
Like I watch a lot of science fiction about time travel, and like there are a ton of different like explanations about time travel and what you can and can't do. Like that was so far in left field that I'm like, even that doesn't make sense.
Time travel works.
Because it does not. Time travel works.
Okay, and like main question that I have is like, why this specific family and why no one else?
Oh, they're genetically superior.
Yeah, like
because they're
this one family has
just
this magical genetic pool, and they, and nobody. Okay,
it doesn't make sense that if there was a family, like number one, humanity being humanity, the fact that there is a family that they're because they introduced the idea of other time travelers being there, they just didn't know about them. The fact that number one, other time travelers would not find each other, and number two, that someone would not have pulled a timeless and tried to completely rewrite history so that they could have someone would have at least one person would have the power to time travel and be like, I'm going to do all of this to benefit me. Like, we can just look at politics. That would be a thing.
There would also be some sort of responsibility. If you're like, you have this superpower, you have a responsibility to humanity to make the world better.
These selfish dickheads. She goes back.
Like, I'm only doing it for my dad. And like,
her white father.
Right. Yeah. Like, there are constant times where she's like, I don't care what happens to anybody else. I can only think about my dad. And I was like, oh my God, child.
She saves two white men, and she's like, it's a matter of life and death. It's really important. And I'm like, I don't think it actually is. Like buddy.
Why was the white man the one that was shivved in prison? The arson. Like, come on, it's not like he murdered.
That's what they have the death penalty. Never. You know what? The Klan would have snapped him up. He would have been indoctrinated, and he would have been fine.
And also, can we talk about how they reacted to that? They were like, you know, oh, well, we can put him in solitary confinement until, you know, this whole thing is resolved or whatever. And mom and daughter look at each other and like, they're too scared that he's going to get killed. And I'm like, so that instead they're going to take away his opportunity to get, you know, free and do it the right way without time traveling. Like, instead they're like, oh no, he can't go in solitary confinement. He'll be so lonely and sad.
Yeah, it's to an extent I understood that part, just like having been following the activists that I have been following. Hello, is that Doyle or is that Zephyr?
Yeah, Doyle.
Doyle.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's a good yawn.
So to an extent, I understood that because I've seen the amount of care that people are having to take to make sure that they and their families are protected as they're protesting and being activists and all of that. So I understood like where that was coming from, because a lot of the time when people are fighting against big corporations or big things like this, we see it, especially when it comes to police brutality, you have to watch your back because people end up disappearing. They end up getting killed for reasons that are unknown. I know back when the Michael Brown protests, the Ferguson protests were going on, a lot of the people who were prominent in the media there, like they can actually trace to people who were photographed and they are not here anymore and they died under suspicious circumstances. So I got that part. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The one that I know specifically is there's a guy that was photographed. I think it's the one that, don't quote me on this, but I want to say he's the one that was photographed throwing the mustard bomb or whatever back. But there was a guy that was photographed and he died under suspicious circumstances a bit later. Like they'll have witnesses will die under suspicious circumstances. No, he was black.
Exactly.
They're not white.
So, but anyways, to that extent, I understood why they were so scared and why they were afraid, because if you are in any sort of activist space, you're going to be aware of the things that those things happen. And I think the fact that he was interested in the ecosystem, while that, you know, maybe not necessarily a white person place, I do see it a little bit like a white person being jailed for ecology-based activism seems a little bit more like.
But wasn't it murder and arson?
Yeah, it was murder and arson because he didn't check for the security guard, and the security guard was like asleep.
So it was like first degree murder.
It's not even first degree murder. That's like
that's what they had it like listed in the book, and that's what I was thinking. I was like, but that's not
right. Yeah.
Murder in the first degree.
Well,
it wasn't intentional.
And that's not even the judge. Like the judge wouldn't have made that. That would have been the jury.
Prosecutor, yeah.
Has this person ever watched a trial?
A basic law.
Basic.
I'm not even from your country, and I'm like
one law degree in undergrad. That was it, and I know this. You can watch a Law and Order episode.
Right? Like one episode. Just one. Anyone. Take your pick.
That's funny.
Why didn't we go after the prosecutor? Why did we go after the judge? Why didn't we go after the company? Why didn't we? It had to be the judge.
I don't know about that one. I do know that, like, I think it was probably trying to make a point of how much power the corporation had, because corporations have done a lot shadier stuff. So.
Well, like this is
like the stakes are too high.
So much of like the corporation has the judge in their pockets, and like we could have like talked about that.
Yeah.
Here's a better story. Okay, here's a better story. First of all, we changed the race of the main character because there's no conceivable the way this happened to a white man in the south area of your
this was in the south, this was over out west.
Like where is down there?
I was really confused about where it was because we talked about Colorado and then we were talking about Pennsylvania.
It was in Arizona.
Arizona.
That's south.
The final place they were actually in was Arizona.
Okay, I was like so confused.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
but it's not part of the South.
Okay, hold on. Christine's trying to say something, and if we're talking, we can't hear Christine.
Okay, so how about the dad still gets arrested and sent to jail for arson? But instead, the kid's like, I'm going to go use my time traveling powers to fuck up the judge as a kid, so like they won't become a judge or something, like screw over their like test scores, something like that, right? But instead, they get wrapped up in the community activism, like the socialism of the time. We remove the boundaries of the story that only allow her to stay there for a certain amount of time because those were stupid and they made no sense. So instead, she stays there because she gets wrapped up in the socialism, and we're going to label it socialism because we're not pussyfooting on anything. And and honestly, they were Marxists, which was cool. But yeah, we're gonna label it what it is. She's gonna get involved. And when she goes back to see if she saved her dad, she actually changed the structure of the corporation, and it never happened.
So Christine, NaNoWriMo 2020. there's a project you need to know what you wanted.
That brings up something that I wanted to talk about, because just the idea that Luke Agrippa would become Luke Biggs made no sense to me. Like, I know he disagreed with his dad. I understand that part.
And then
activist to someone who was for the corporation that was killing his friends that he was fighting against, that made no sense.
None.
Not for the reasons that were given. Now, I could have seen if it had been forced.
But it wasn't. We can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Christine.
No, we read that.
Christine's like, give me a minute. Are you going to put it in the chat? All right, well, Christine's writing her essay for me to read out loud. Who are you? You're murdering me?
What?
Oh, okay.
Okay. She's talking about
Yes, the fact that Elijah Biggs was
Elijah
like,
Biggs. Yeah.
I am going to murder you. I am going to, for the lulz, murder you, adopt your son, and indoctrinate him into my political beliefs. Like, I could see if Luke fought against it at the beginning of him being adopted by Elijah Biggs for whatever stupid reason that's going to happen. I could see that working, him eventually, as he gets older, assimilating, because that's how you survive. But it was like the way Josh explained it, and maybe Josh didn't know, but the way Josh explained it, and that's the only view we have, is that suddenly he has this change of heart and he's for this corporation that he was wanting to.
He was like, I have like Josh is his homosexual lover, and they're like, join the corporation or we'll tell everybody, and it's 1940, and they're like, oh no.
That would have been a better plot.
We can't hear you again.
You keep breaking up.
We're just gonna watch Christine.
Yeah.
For some reason, Christine's mic goes out whenever she's trying to, like, if we're talking, the sound mixing is not great. Oh, she said I turned it into a gay scandal. We understood that part. We got that. We got that. Like, just that. Yeah. I think the thing that bugged me the most was the exposition. It was so, like, you'd have moments where the kids were so kind of mature, and then you'd have this exposition. I was like, this is info dump. Please stop info dumping.
Well, can we also talk about the fact that the author was talking down to the reader the entire time?
Yeah.
Like, in the form of Charlie.
Mm-hmm. There were places where I was like, okay, yes, this is appropriate for a like 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old. And then there were times I was like, kids are not stupid. Why are you writing it this way?
Yeah.
Well, and he would literally just so they would talk about something that was easily explainable to even like a 12-year-old. And he's like, oh, so you mean you're going to do da-da-da-da-da? And I was like, yeah, literally what they just said.
And can we also talk about the brief attempt at addressing like and talking about Quakerism and like how bad that was?
That was like honestly kind of. I mean, I'm not.
That was just thrown in there. Like,
yeah, it was just like, oh, here, diversity.
And like, what were the Quakers doing in A, Greece, or B, Arizona? Like, what?
That makes no sense.
No, he wasn't. He'd come from Greece, lived with a Quaker family, and then moved to Arizona. That's how.
Oh, okay. That makes a bit more
But
sense.
like,
But
my
yeah.
question is if he really, if Aristotle had these, beliefs that he pulled from, and that, I mean, he had the star thing, so he clearly was. So he clearly was.
Okay, everybody.
I mean,
be quiet
it really
so
doesn't
Christine can
fit.
say this
The
out
name
loud.
does not fit.
Hold on. All of their Greek names, it was just like they just took a thing and then they added Apollos at the end of it. But everybody be quiet. Let's see if Christine can actually say this out loud. Hold on. Go ahead, Christine. No. I'm not a fan of the name Aristotle. I don't blame you because I think he's one of the ones that kind of is he one of the ones that like his philosophy ended up leading to eugenics to some extent? Okay, that's what I was thinking about. Oh man,
Yeah.
Christine, that episode on phrenology, I about punched a thing in my car.
But like the whole thing is like, if Aristotle was a Quaker, then why would he have not instilled those ideals in his son? And why would his son be so pro-fight and not, why would he not have taught his son, that there's a peaceful way to do things, but like in a way that not during the fighting, because like we only saw during the fighting was when he was actually trying to address it, instead of like him having like taught him, this is what I believe, at a young age.
Well,
And I
that's
feel like
one of the things. Yeah,
that doesn't
one of
make
the things
sense.
That bugged me. That bugged me
It's like-
because. Yeah, go ahead, finish.
Because like in any family setting, even if you're not trying to say, oh, our family is this, you still raise your child understanding, this is what I believe, like even if that's how you're approaching it, you're still teaching them basic morals, and basic be kind, and basic oh, well, because I believe we don't harm each other, I'm going to try to do it this way, and like, that's something that's in every religion anyway. So like every faith, every belief system, the basic idea is loving people. And if there's a God in that belief system, loving that God, like that's the basics of every faith, so I feel like that's something that every parent would try to teach their kid. And so we're seeing it as if he has never been introduced to these ideas at all, and I thought that was a little weird.
Yeah, that was actually one of my issues with Luke's storyline, besides the fact that we're redeeming him at 70 and the whole friendship thing. But like, not necessarily, I didn't take it quite that far, but for me, I felt like a lot of the issues with Luke would have been solved if Aristotle had, instead of brushing him off, actually sat him down and talked about it and explained it.
True.
Just be like, hey, kiddo, I'm not a coward.
Like I remember we talked about coddling children and how do you decide when it's time to tell them, when we were talking about I can make this promise. And like, that's a hard decision to make, but I think telling kids why things are the way they are is important. And there's a certain, like, it's just, especially like for me, one of the things that I was not allowed to do as a child was walk around my block. We were not allowed to do that at all. What we didn't know is that the reason we were doing that is because there was a registered sex offender down the street from us. My mother never explained that to me. And so I grew up very angry and frustrated that I could not walk around my block when all of my friends were allowed to like go from like 3 avenues away to come and see me, like all of that stuff. And so some of that was we should have been able to walk around our block. But like, if she had just sat down and explained that to me, I would have been like, oh, okay, I understand. So like, it was more of a like, you have to equip kids to be able to deal with stuff instead of sheltering them. Like, sheltering them is not going to help.
Well, it's really honestly just going to hurt them in the end, because as adults, you become these traumatized people.
I still don't like talking to strangers.
Go blind trying to time travel to save someone that's never going to be saved.
Yeah. It's like
So-
telling you don't push the red button, you know? If you don't explain that the red button is going to hurt you or cause harm to you or other people, then you're going to push the red button just because you were told not to, you know? Like,
That's definitely me. Definitely.
Well, and especially since this was written as supposedly an older middle grade. Like they're
Yeah.
13-year-olds.
yeah.
Like young adult starts at 14 or 15.
Mhm.
You know, so these aren't 8-year-olds.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think most middle grade
You have
is
to be that
around
old.
12, 13 age, and then they just like kids read up a lot. That's part of why you have that younger.
Well, that's what
Why
I'm saying. But like a 13-year-old would know the why or should know the why
Yeah.
behind something.
So, all right, we're gonna start wrapping up here in a few minutes. But I did want to say, like, I asked you guys if you had any favorite quotes, and so I wanted to see if anyone had come up with any. My favorite one was the where she comes back and like has that realization that like the life you have is a good life. Like maybe the bad things you wanted to change were still there, but so were the good things, the things you loved best, and wouldn't want to change for anything in the world. Like I appreciated that kind of growth in her, and I just liked some of the wording in this. Like there would be places where I would like, your plot is a mess, but you that sentence is good. I would love to know who wrote which parts, because I feel like most of our issues are probably with one half of this who I won't make any assumptions on who it is, but I have
I haven't read from either author before, so I like really have no context.
like
I didn't really have any problems with the prose, like the quality of the prose. It
Yeah.
was everything else. I thought the writing was fine.
anytime there was anytime there was exposition in the boys sections, I was just like, this could be so done so much better.
Oh well, yeah, but like it's not like it was bad
Mhm.
quality sentences or something.
Right.
All
I
right.
don't
any-
know my favorite like quote, but I liked the part at the very beginning when she was talking about equilibrium and like explaining that and how it was a fancy word for balance and like how it kind of like that word meant a lot to her. And I was like, I relate to that.
Nice. Okay. Okay.
I like that. I like that.
So I often am a fan of like very obscure lines that I feel like would be really good Instagram captions. So one of those, I just wanted to throw it out, was his thoughts followed their own rules. I liked that one. But no, I feel like, Christine, this would be your favorite quote. For the first time, I did not give a flying plate of squirrel scat. What happened to me? I feel like that would be your favorite. I don't know why. It just sounds like based on your feelings on this book.
Yeah.
We all know what Christine would use instead of squirrel scat.
Shit.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other things that we want to talk about in the
Well,
book?
I think this is my favorite quote.
Oh, yes, say your favorite quote, Christine. Go ahead.
Okay, so I think because I like jokes, I like laughing, I like humor. So I really liked when Charlie said that jobs and a good place to work and a safe place to live were a fundamental American value. That made me laugh a lot. It was a really good joke.
I didn't laugh at that. I cried.
Right.
That's
Oh,
what
Funny because
it was like, here's the worst part. We say that, and then we don't
I
behave
know.
that way. Like,
We-
oh, my child, you don't even know yet. You don't even
Isn't
know.
that like the entirety of like all of American culture anyway? Like we say one thing, but we don't behave in a way that is conducive to that in everything. Welcome to America.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to how our power is structured and the fact that if you ask someone on the street, they're going to say that's what they want because it is. But if you go to Washington and you actually get into the conversations and the behind the door, the private stuff with some of these people who are in charge, they don't actually care. They just want to stay in power for as long as possible. Somebody pointed out that like most of our either Senate or Congress or something is mostly white men in their 70s, like 60s and 70s. And it wasn't like that a long time ago, like maybe like a couple of decades ago, like 20, 30, in the 60s.
It was that long.
It was much more like a few decades ago, like the guys that were in when it was more equal in representation and more like not equal represent, but like more diverse with age ranges, they're still in power now is the issue. Right. Instead of having phased out and more people who are contemporary and younger being phased in. We've stopped
it's the same as like professors, right? Like once you have that cushy job, you don't retire, even though you haven't literally been trained in like 5 decades.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay,
that's
so
why time limits need to be a thing.
Any final thoughts on the book before I tell everyone the dates for Vaultathon 2021 and how we are choosing the movies? Yeah, I understand, Christine, you hate the book. I would give this to a young child. I have kids that I'm like, you know what? I might suggest this because it would, in some ways, introduce them to things.
That's not how you raise a burgeoning anti-racist anarchist.
Christine, we would have discussions. And also I'm talking about kids that probably would not be exposed to this otherwise. Anyways, like I would recommend this depending on like the parents' kind of value system. I would recommend this. I can see ways you can use this to teach your kids, but it's not something you can just give your kid and have them read and not follow up.
Discuss it. Yeah, if you're gonna sit down and talk about it, then yeah. Mm-hmm. If you're not one to sit down and talk, then no. Yeah,
I think it's a good way to
conversation.
As a book on its own, it might make my bottom 10 of the year.
I just don't want my kids I don't want them to think that like their fate lies in the hands of trying to persuade a white man that they're worthy of existing. That's what I never want my kids to think. So
can we just put that on a t-shirt? That is like everybody right now should have that in their life. That line right there.
Like you don't need to convince them you're worth it. Like you are.
You shouldn't have to convince anyone that you're worth it. But yeah,
not old white men.
The people in charge is necessarily what I'm thinking. But yeah. If suddenly someone else is in power, then them too.
I feel like we would do a lot better if there were less, especially old white dudes in power.
Yeah. Right?
Less of them, more younger people, more people of color, because yeah. Anyways, okay, so other thoughts? We're good? We're good? Any final thoughts on the movie?
That's what started this whole rant.
The movie was so much better.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Oh, I have a profound thought about the movie.
Okay.
Other than Brother Bear, which somebody in this live stream picked, so it was clearly the best choice. Meet the Robinsons has been my favorite Vaultathon movie.
What was everybody's favorite moment in the movie, or like favorite part of the movie?
Oh gosh.
There was something visceral about the singing dancing frogs and the mom bending over backwards being like,
yes.
That ended me. I was like, what
Franny
am I
is
watching?
goals. Franny is goals.
Actually, I have a crush on Franny. So
yes. She is like woman crush Wednesday material right there. Yes.
I just liked the realization at the end when you're like, you can see the characters at the science fair and they're like, oh, that's that one, that's that one, that one. And it's just like this, like, it's that like light bulb of like, oh, and then you're like, I like that.
Yeah. That's my favorite moment is when he gets a family. Like, and I think it's especially in that moment, I tweeted about it, was when Lucille was just like, you know what? This kid has an idea. I don't care if I get blown up again. Let's do it. I was like, oh, this is exactly the mom this child needs.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, but if my kid is like a super genius, I'm not buying him an observatory.
Yeah, that might be like, I might take out of the dog's food allowance. So.
My personal favorite in the movie is the part where they really cheer and celebrate when he fails.
That's
my
so
favorite
good.
thing.
Yes.
Like, that is so good to me. And that's like, you know, one of those things that like carries you through like life, you know, like reflect back on that message of celebrate your failures You know,
Yeah.
and that's like such a good thing to instill in a kid, because that's gonna, you know, that's gonna carry them through whatever they want to do, because that's something that can apply to whatever you want to do in your life. Celebrate your failures, because that leads you learn from your failidures, that leads you to your successes. And like that's my all-time favorite thing.
There you go. There's another teacher quote.
And the idea that not everything you need to do has to be exceptional. I think that in our society, we really celebrate exceptionalism. There was a book, I don't remember what book it was, that I was just reading. What book was it? But like, it was one of those books that made me, as a person who's living a mediocre life, just feel like a failure because I'm living. I was like, I wish we did more to be like, you know what? If your life is not, it was Julie and the Phantoms, which I love the show. But like, even if you are not the person in the spotlight, your life is still good and still worth living. Like, you can have a good life even if it is mediocre.
I haven't read it yet, but it's on my list of things to read this year, and that's The Convenience Store Woman, and it plays with a lot of those themes about how like just like this woman like works in a convenience store. That's all she does, her job, and she's happy, and like that just plays against everything of American capitalism of like trying to climb this corporate ladder, and like I don't know, I'm really excited to pick it up. I just have to wait for it to come in on Scribd.
At the end of the day, we'll all be mediocre because none of us are golden retrievers.
That's true. Or silver doodles.
You can only be silver because you'll never be gold.
T-shirt.
Yes, that would be such a good shirt. My dad makes shirts. I'm gonna make that happen.
You'll only be silver because you can never be gold, and then a picture of Briar.
Yes.
Like
I got you.
A golden retriever. Yes.
Yes.
I need it.
Okay. 2021, let's talk. Some of you might notice that we are not doing a November round. That was there purely because last year I wanted to do more than one round of Vault-a-thon, and I didn't want to wait until 2020. Maybe I should have, but it was a mistake. I am never, ever, ever doing a readathon running a readathon during November again. That is not happening. A mistake. I'm just, especially with how 2020 has gone. So we will be sticking with March, June, and September for Vault-a-thon for the foreseeable future. So 2021, your dates for round 6 is going to be March 15th through the 21st. Round 7 is going to be June 14th through the 20th. Round 8 is going to be September 13th through the 19th. The movies have not been decided yet, though, because I am going to open it up to the people who participate in Vault-a-thon. So if you are following the Vault-a-thon Twitter account, I'm opening it up to you guys to nominate movies. So just there will be a tweet later on this evening. It's not there yet, Christine. You can't be the first person to comment right now. There will be a tweet later on this evening explaining that. It's also going to mention a couple of the movies that we will never do here on Vault-a-thon, just because for various reasons, parts of the plot revolve around very racist stereotypes. And in some cases, like the people who the movie is about have asked that movie be taken from and put back in the Disney Vault. So those we will not be watching. I will have those in that tweet. You will have, I think I decided like 72 hours. You'll have 3 days to nominate what movie you want. The movie that the top movies that get the most likes, up to 6, will be the movies that are chosen, and then they are going to go head to head to decide the movie for round 6, 7, and 8. It will make more sense once I do the Twitter thread, but we'll have 72 hours of figuring out which movies are going to be the movies that we're going to be going head to head, and then each one of those voting for round 6, 7, and 8 will have 24 hours on a poll to do. Did that make sense to anyone?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Does anyone have questions? Yes.
Okay.
Oh, wait, can you nominate more than one?
I already have nominated 4.
How?
What to tell you?
The tweet's not even up yet. You have to reply to the tweet. Those nominations don't count.
Check your Twitter.
Is that a scheduled tweet?
Oh my God. Christine, did you log into Twitter? I'm changing the password right now.
No, I didn't. Tweeted about Vaultathon.
At Vaultathon.
Okay, well, you will need to renominate them. It will
What
depend.
was voted on?
It will. I'll say this. I would nominate the one that you want most in this first 24 hours, and then see how many people have replied. I may be like, hey guys, can you nominate some more movies? So, anyways, okay, so that's the live show, I guess. We have talked the book to death, talked the movie. All of these lovely people are down in the description box. You can check out their channels. I highly recommend you do that. Like, highly recommend you do that because they create quality content. I love working with them. I hope we will have them on again at some point because it's fun talking with them. Anyways, so any last closing thoughts? Say goodbye. Anything?
Make the choices.
I was just thinking in general, is there anything you want to plug that's going to be happening on your channel? No.
Sarah from Sarah the Dreamer, we might be doing like I think we are, where we're going to be like doing like a read along for all the Graceland books before the new one comes out. So
nice.
Yeah.
I still haven't finished that series.
Well,
I like
good
it.
yet.
Do it.
I have book 2 on my shelf, but I don't have book 1 yet. It was at Half Price Books, and it was the hardcover for like $4. So obviously, I was gonna get it.
Actually,
Yes.
Okay, so you need to participate then.
Yes.
Banned Books Week starts today, and I'm doing a vlog on like reading banned books and then discussing my commentary on why books shouldn't be banned, especially not for the reason why said books that I'm reading are banned. So that's coming sometime after October 3rd.
Okay. Nice. Bree, do you have anything?
I already have quite a few heated clips, and it's only day 1, so that's cool.
This is going to be so much fun. I like watching people rant.
Yes. So I just recently finished the Hunger Games series for the first time because I read books 1 and 2. Yeah, I read books 1 and 2 when they came out, but then they got popular because the movies started to come out. They announced that they were going to do the movies, so everybody started reading it, and immediately because it was popular, I couldn't read it anymore. I don't know why that was me, but it was
weirdos.
I was one of those people. I know. So I finished it, and then I read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I'm going to do a video for finishing the series, and then I don't know if I'm going to do it all in one or if I'm going to do 2 separate. It depends on how long I ramble for. But I'm going to have that video coming out soon.
Awesome.
So it's going to be an adventure. I also have to do the same thing for Divergent. I read the first 2 books and I quit because of the movie again. So I'm going to have to do the same thing for that one.
Bree, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not worth it.
I've heard.
My most hated book of all time. I have my current work in progress is a spite right that I started as fan fiction because I was so mad. I'm not even kidding. I was depressed for 3 days after finishing that book.
Like I've already been spoiled for. I've always been spoiled for what happens. So like I know what's coming, but like I don't know how it happens. So
wow.
Yeah, I don't know the details. I just know that certain thing happens.
Yes. For the stupid reason. Anyways, I bought Allegiant and I sold it on back when it was not half price, like the eBay half books. Resold it right immediately. I was like, I would have burned it, except I wanted to get my money back because I paid full price for that thing. Or full price Walmart price. But like I would have liked it to set it on fire if I had not been tight on cash. I am not someone who I do not support the government burning books. I support individuals taking their feelings out on books that they hated.
There you go.
That do not belong to the library. That are their own personal books. Christina's gone again.
You again. When you try your best, but
okay. I think we're good. I think that's it. Now that I have ranted about my least favorite book to everyone. Thank thank you to everyone who joined us. This was so much fun. I love doing this readathon. It is so much fun, and I love the fact that I get to hang out with people that I like and talk with them. And I hope that everyone else had fun watching this live show too, and maybe learned a thing or two, and maybe check out the movie on the book. So anyways, bye.